I am continuing the Greek grammar that I started on the book of Galatians. And I am reading in Galatians chapter 1, and we'll be going from chapter 1 up through verse 6, up through chapter 1, verse 10, looking at the Hebrew grammar, excuse me, at the Greek grammar of the book of Galatians. And if anyone would like to join, you're welcome to join with your Greek New Testament. So we begin. Thaumazo hate hutos takeos metatitheste apatu kalesantas humas in cariti Christu eis heteran euangelion. Notice it reads, I am marveling that thus so quickly you are permitting yourselves to be turned away from the one who called you by the grace of Christ into another gospel. Notice thaumazo is your present indicative active, first person singular from thaumazo, I am marveling. And then we have the reason for it, that you are permitting yourselves to turn away. And notice hutos, takaos are two adverbs that I am marveling thus that you so quickly are permitting yourselves to be turned away from metatithemi, that you are being turned away. Notice metatithemi is from the verb is metatithemi, and here we have metatitheste, you are being turned away, is a present indicative passive from metatithemi. You are being turned away from the one who called you. Notice apa is taking the case of the genitive. It's showing separation from. And notice tu kalesantas is from kaleo, to call. Here we have the article with the participle, the aorist active participle from kaleo, to call. So you are permitting yourselves to be turned away from the one who called you. Notice hemas is your accusative plural here, in the grace of Christ, unto a heteron euangelion, unto another gospel. Heteron means literally another of a different kind. In other words, you are permitting yourselves to turn away from another gospel of a totally different kind, he's saying, is what heteron means, which is not another of the same kind. Notice ha uk estin Allah, eme tenes esin hoi tarasantes humas, kai thelantes metastrepsai ta euangelion tu Christu, which is not another. Notice the neuter relative pronoun in the ha, which is not another, and Allah here is different from heteron. It means another of the same kind. In other words, it's not the same kind. It's a heteron gospel. It's another of a different kind. So, which is really not another of the same kind at all, except, a may here I would render except, certain ones are the ones troubling you. Notice hoi is your definite article, and tarasantes is your present participle, nominative masculine plural from tarasso. So certain are troubling you, and they're willing to overturn the gospel of Christ. Notice thelantes is from thelo. It's your present participle, nominative masculine plural from thelo. So they are troubling you, willing to really overturn from metastrepho. In other words, here we have an aorist infinitive, active infinitive, metastrepho becoming metastrepsi in this aorist infinitive. Think of luci using the luo paradigm, willing to overturn the gospel of Christ. In other words, those who were troubling the believers at Galatia were willing and wanting to overturn the gospel of Christ. But although we, ala kai angemes e angelas ex uranu, euangelizzetai humen parcha euangelisametha humen, anathema esto. That is, but even if we or an angel out of heaven should preach to you contrary to that which we preach to you, let him be anathema. That is, turned over to God for judgment. Notice Allah here is your sharp contrast, but, and followed by kai, on, if. Here we have a third class condition. If we should do this, followed by the subjunctive in euangelizzetai. So if we or an angel out of heaven, notice X here takes the genitive case, singular, if we should preach, notice euangelizzetai is a present middle subjunctive from euangelizo. If we should preach to you ourselves contrary to that which we preached. Euangelisametha, notice here we have the aorist indicative middle, first person plural from euangelizo. Contrary to that which we preach to you, then let him be anathema. Notice esto is your present imperative, third masculine singular from ami. Let him be anathema. Let him be accursed or placed under God for judgment. Then the Greek reads on, hos pra erekamen kai arti palen lego etis humas euangelizzetai parcha paralabete anathemai esto. Notice, as we have previously said, notice pra erekamen is from prolego. It is the perfect indicative active, first person plural from prolego. That is, as we have said. And now again, I am saying, here we have lego, your present indicative active. If anyone should preach, etis humes euangelizzetai. If anyone is preaching, notice euangelizo means to preach, so we have the present indicative middle from euangelizo. So if anyone himself should preach to you contrary to that, notice parcha would be contrary to that which, parelabite, contrary to that which you have received. And notice paralabite is from paralambano. It is your second aorist indicative actives, second person plural from paralambano. Contrary to that which you received, then again let him be anathema. Notice again we have another present imperative, third masculine singular from ami. Let him be anathema. And then Paul is really saying, even if I would preach contrary to what I had preached before, then I need to be brought under God's judgment, he's saying. So that message needs to be heard. There is no other gospel except what had been preached. And then we come to verse 10, where Paul is going to continue defending his apostleship, talking about how he became an apostle. But notice verse 10. Before that, he's going to say, if I was preaching anything other than what I should be preaching, I would not be an apostle of Christ. Notice Paul says, Arti God anthropos patho eton theon, ezeto anthropos areskein, eti anthropos ereskan Christou doulos uk on amen. That is, for now, am I persuading men or God? Or am I seeking to please men? If I was pleasing men, I would no longer be a servant of Christ. Now, notice as Paul goes on here, he says, for now, if I am pleasing men, notice patho is your present indicative active, first person singular from patho. Am I pleasing men? A question mark, or God? Or am I seeking, zeto is from zeteo, am I seeking, present indicative active, first person singular, am I seeking to please men? Notice oreskein is your present infinitive active from oresko. Am I seeking to please men? He asked this question. If that would be the case, if yet I was pleasing men, and notice ereskon is your imperfect indicative active, first person singular from oresko. If I was yet pleasing men, then I would not be a servant of Christ. And notice the indefinite particle on followed by amen, the imperfect indicative active, first person singular from ami. In other words, I would cease to be a servant of Christ if all I was doing was pleasing men and not Christ. And what a message that Paul is sharing here. We need to realize that our task is to preach the euangelion, the good news, that it's all by grace alone, that Christ died for our sins, that he rose again, and that through faith in him alone, we are acquitted, not through any works that we do or anything that we add to it. This will be what Paul is going to drive home. But in the following verses, he will describe how he became an apostle. So I'm going to stop there. And if anyone is following along, try to read it in your Greek text, follow along, get a good deductive grammar. I personally was trained in Machen, and I appreciate Machen's grammar a lot. I think it's a very good grammar to work from. But at any rate, we'll stop there, and I'm hoping that this can help for some to revive their Greek, for some even to begin Greek and learn the alphabet, and then come to the text and follow along as we do the inductive grammar and working through some of these wonderful biblical New Testament texts. Thank you.